Hello and welcome back to The Room, the podcast brought to you by the LFC Transfer Room. It's not quite Richie today, but it is a slightly B-Tech version. It's Chris hosting, the man from YouTube, the YouTube extraordinaire, as Richie likes to call us. And we are joined today by Dan, the host of the LFC, the owner of the LFC Transfer Room. How are you, Dan? Are you good?
Doing great. I'm the temporary co-host of the LFC Transfer Room now. Second episode in a row. Let's get this. I'm gonna take Daz's job next.
And we are joined by Daz. How are you, mate? You good?
I'm good. It's been a Hollywood minute since I've been on. Seems weird.
I know it's been a long time. It's usually the dream trio of Richie, Daz, and Matt, but Matty, but they're not on it at the moment. So me and Dan are coming to fill in, and Daz is still holding up the fort. But first of all, before we get into anything, we're going to go into the rumour roundup. So I'm just going to read this out. No opinions or nothing, just the stuff that's been going around. According to the Northern Echo, Divock Origi is wanted by Eddie Howe's Newcastle. The bankrolled by a billionaire club in the Northeast want him to compete with Callum Wilson. Now, that's a very, very interesting one. Also, Liverpool are apparently preparing a 30 million a year contract to sign Kylian Mbappe. That's according to the Spanish portal Defensa Central. Apparent, and as well, one of the biggest red articles on the website, Liverpool want Luis Diaz in January from Porto, but Porto don't want to lose their Colombian star. If someone does want him, though, they have to pay the £67 million release clause, and that's according to the Daily Record and various Portuguese sites. Also, Liverpool are interested in bringing Dennis Zakaria on a free transfer next summer. Borussia Dortmund are very interested in his signature, but the player prefers a move to the Premier League or to La Liga. That's according to Sport Bild. Dortmund also lead the race for Karim Adeyemi, a man who's been linked with Liverpool throughout the autumn months. The player wants some game time wherever he decides to go, and his agent is currently deciding to travel around Europe to decide where he wants to go. That's according to Sport One and various others. And finally, Barcelona do want Thiago Alcantara on loan. In January, Xavi wants players with the Barca DNA, as we've seen with the signing of Dani Alves. And he could be a good option to bring, but only on loan due to their financial state. So we'll start off with you, Daz. Divock Origi, what's your verdict on him potentially going to Newcastle United?
Not in January, no chance. We're losing Salah, Mane, probably Keita. So yeah, he's not going anywhere. Maybe the summer, if they come in for 100 million, they've got the money. So let him spend it. I like Origi, but it's time for him to leave in the summer. But
yeah,
there's no players leaving Liverpool in January.
especially not a forward player, right? I mean, with Salah and Mane going for AFCON, it would probably take an astronomical offer, Dan, for Newcastle to pick him up from Anfield, right?
I mean, what are we talking about with astronomical? What do you guys think that we will be selling Origi for?
I think if Newcastle stick 40 million on the table, we sell.
14.
40. I genuinely don't think we'll take anything less than that because we need him in January.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, considering the fact that Divock was trying to get himself not out of the club, but he was trying to get more game time at the end of the season, he'll probably push for a move out from the club in January if there's a reasonable offer. And if that's the case, then I mean we're probably going to lower our standards as far as price tag goes. I think if Newcastle offers something like 25 million to 27 million, he's going to go regardless of January with AFCON or not. It's going to be a situation of what the player needs and wants. But yeah, I don't want to see him leave in January, but if that's a possibility, I feel like it's going to happen, and I'll be open to it. If he doesn't leave now, it's going to take 6 months for him to leave, and then we're not going to be able to bring another option up front.
Yeah, I mean the biggest the rumor going around with the Northern Echo is that he will go out on loan. Now, Daz, if to say we'll be conceptual here, if he goes with a loan with an option of a £25 million buy clause, would you accept that?
If, if we have somebody lined up, yes. That's the only way he would leave. If
An
Liverpool,
obligation or an option to buy though, Chris? Option, I don't think.
I'm gonna say option.
Oh no! Don't do this to us, Chris.
I'm fully being, but I think they would. I genuinely think why not spend the 25 million? I think he would be excellent at a club like Newcastle, but it's an awkward one. But you know what? Eddie Howe loves Callum Wilson, as we all know, but he does need a backup, and Divock Origi will be very, very, very capable for that. Moving on, we're going to go to Thiago. I mean, I thought he was absolutely excellent against Arsenal on Saturday, Dan. If he does take the option to go back to Barcelona, do you think it'll happen? And if so, why?
I totally think it's a doable transfer. I think it makes sense. Barcelona are currently missing that experienced and vision and player with vision in the middle of the park. Of course, they have Sergio Busquets, who's one of the best defensive midfielders currently in time. They have Frankie de Jong, who brings that stability and a little bit of vision to the team as well. But they need a third, more experienced piece in their midfield. Of course, they have Pedri, who is wonderful and such a great player, but he's still pretty raw. He needs more. They need a more experienced and more stable option in midfield. That way, Pedri can just interchange between him and De Jong in the middle of the park. So I think makes sense. Thiago knows the league. Xavi wants an experienced player that is able to speak Spanish, command, lead, and has the Barca DNA. Makes totally sense. The only thing that doesn't make sense is that reports are claiming that Thiago's unhappy at Anfield because he's not getting game time, which is completely rubbish. I mean, the only reason he's not playing is not because he's not good. It's not because club doesn't like him or anything. It's just because of his fitness issues. We all know, and I'm pretty sure that you guys also agree with the fact that when Thiago is fit, he starts with Henderson and Fabinho. So that's the only part that doesn't really fit me. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfectly feasible as to why Xavi does want Thiago at Barcelona, does. But do you think it would be a good move for him and for Liverpool? I mean, again, I'll throw out a conceptual fee of, say, 25, 30 million. Do you think it would be good for Liverpool, really, if we let the Spaniard go?
No. Just like Dan said, he's one of our better midfielders, and if everyone's fit, that's our best midfielders: Thiago, Hendo, and Fabinho. So why would you let him go? I can understand, the Barca link, obviously, and Xavi, but why wouldn't he want Thiago? Everybody, and most clubs would want Thiago, a player like that. But it's hearsay. Barca have really no money, so they don't have the chips, so to speak. Liverpool have all the chips, but Thiago's going nowhere. I see Thiago wanting to stay at Liverpool for at least another this season and then next season, and then maybe he'll look at maybe going back to Barca, but not anytime soon.
No, absolutely not. I mean, another interesting option. I mean, we talked about attacking options with Divock Origi potentially going in the summer, but Karim Adeyemi has been a player who's been linked over and over again throughout the autumn months. Been balling, scored 18 goals in all competitions for RB Salzburg this season. Daz, do you think it's the right stage of his career to potentially come to a club like Liverpool, or do you think maybe a step like Dortmund or Leipzig would be a better move for him?
That's a good question. I mean, we've seen with Minamino what kind of has happened. It's taken him quite a long time. And let me tell you what, I jumped out of my chair when he scored the goal. I was so chuffed for him, really, really chuffed. I would say, yeah, maybe at Dortmund for him, a couple of seasons. I don't think he's ready for the Premier League yet.
It's a very, very difficult one, isn't it, Dan? I mean, the players that Liverpool usually sign in attacking positions are sort of 24, 25 years old. I've been proven in a couple of seasons in a top league. Do you think Karim Adeyemi might break that trend, or do you think Liverpool will continue and wait for Adeyemi to get a little bit older?
I mean, it really seems like the thing that we do now is no longer go for prospect players and sign them. It seems like now what we do is wait for them to go to a bigger side, bigger league, and then try to snatch them. I mean, the case of Danjuma comes to mind, where suddenly we want him now that he's at Villarreal. The case of Rafinha comes to mind, that when he was at Rennes, we kind of were keeping an eye on him, but then we waited for him to go to Leeds. And now that he's doing well at Leeds, we want him. Similar scenarios to the Naby Keita one, where supposedly there's reports saying that we wanted him before he was at RB Leipzig, but then we waited for him to go to RB Leipzig for us to make a move. Sadio Mane too, that we were like looking at him when he was at Salzburg. I mean, it seems like we transformed into that side where we're a little more particular, meticulous with our moves. We're not willing to take risks anymore. I feel like we could potentially lose on a big player here. We know what's happened to Holland. We've seen what happened to Rafinha. I mean, these players just go explode from their peak after they move. So we gotta go in now for someone like Adeyemi. Do I feel like he's gonna go in to Liverpool? I don't think so, because he's looking for game time. He knows that Dortmund is the best option to get game time. They only played with one striker, but he could be the only backup to Haaland, and the one and only. So he will get a bunch of game time. At Liverpool, if Firmino is not fit, Diogo Jota comes in, Divock Origi comes in. You got players like Mohamed Salah moving as a striker to maybe open up a wider role. So minutes are going to be very limited if he wants to come to Liverpool as a striker. So it just makes sense for him to go to a different side.
Yeah, and it's a frustrating one, because we want to see players like Adeyemi come in, great young talents. But I think he's too good to play at a youth level, and, not quite good enough to play first team. It's a really, really frustrating period, but hopefully he kicks on, and maybe Liverpool look at him in the future. I want to move just quickly on to the Arsenal game before we move on to Porto. I mean, you mentioned, Daz, that the Taki Minamino's goal made you jump out of your seat. I'm sure that several of the other ones made you do so too. I think it was just a brilliant Reds performance in the end.
It was. And like, we were talking before, the atmosphere wasn't quite the standard I would think at a 5:30 match. You were there. It was seen to be pretty quiet, until Arteta got his, underwear in a wad. And man, that was brilliant. I take Klopp any day of the week in a boxing match. Oh God! I mean, it was comical. And did you read Garth Crooks' thing today, saying Klopp was the villain?
Mate, I don't think anyone. I try my best not to acknowledge Garth Crooks in any way, shape, or form. To be honest,
absolutely useless. But I mean, I'm like, what do you mean the villain? I mean, Arteta played into Liverpool's hands. I mean, this isn't a pantomime, But from there, I mean, all the goals were class. I mean, I've never ever seen. Who was it? Simicast who did the first header, and then Jota did that absolutely world class header pass. I've never seen anybody do a headed pass like that. And then Mane runs on. I thought Mane was going to go score, but I'm happy he passed it to Salah. So they are mates.
It seems like now they're combining a little more now, right? Yeah.
I think it was. I think the season before it was just like competition between them, and it took over. The game actually. Then they were both a bit too selfish, and I think either they've come together and talked themselves, or Klopp's gone like, look, this is a team sport. If you see the chance and you think you can take it, take it. But if you see somebody open, pass the damn ball, But yeah, all 4 goals were class. So yes, I was jumping every single time. But Taki, I was just like, it's well deserved, especially coming on just for a minute and then scoring. You saw his little face. I mean, the smile on his face was just boss.
Honestly, I mean, a lot of people. I know a lad who was very, very close to Southampton last year, and he said that everyone around there said that Minamino was the nicest man they'd ever seen, and you can't help but feel happy for him, and he deserves it, Dan. I mean, he's turned up massively in games that he's been required to this season, no?
Yeah, I mean he's definitely one of my favorite players that doesn't play. So it's like one of I love the Ox, even though he doesn't get as much as involved in the team as a starting 11. I love Minamino. I also love the likes of I love Milner. He doesn't play as much, but he's a huge part of the team. He became one of those players that I just love to see involved in the team. He's just a happy face. Of course, he's not in the team just because of the happy face. No, he's a great player with huge potential. And when he comes in the pitch, he shows what he can do. But I mean, just having him around is just it's just a splash of positivity. You can tell he works really hard to get his chances. So I mean, I'm just happy for him. It's great to have him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we mentioned, Salah and Mane, they were both just on new levels. I mean, I don't think Mane had the greatest first half. But then, as soon as he scored his goal, he just turned into a different animal. Really, it's just amazing to see, and hopefully, we can continue that going into Porto and Southampton. But going on to Porto, Dan, I mean, how much in terms of how much you think Jurgen Klopp will rotate, and how much you would like to rotate? How much are those two things different? Would you like to rotate a little bit more than Jurgen Klopp will, or will Jurgen Klopp rotate more than you think?
I don't think he's going to rotate as much. I feel like when we expect him to rotate, he just says, you know what, I don't mind. Just go all out. We want to win this game. We've seen it in the Carabao Cup. Maybe he throws in 3, maybe 4 reserved substitute players. But, he goes all out. He tries to win every game. It kind of bothers me a little bit because in situations like this where we are already a foot in the next round of the Champions League, you don't want to risk players, But I fully expect him to play Mohamed Salah. I fully expect him to play maybe Virgil van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold. It worries me a little bit, but I know it's most likely going to happen. I wish I could see a side full of young talent. I don't mind losing the next game, but of course we already know he's going to go all out. He's going to try to win it.
Yeah, I mean, Daz, Porto have not really provided much of a threat ever in their history of playing Liverpool in recent years. But do you think Jurgen Klopp will heavily rotate when it comes to Wednesday?
No. One, it's at Anfield. 2, he's a winner. He wants to win this match. He wants to put down a marker. I want him to rotate. I don't want Trent to play. Why not let Nico play? And the back 2, give Phillips his Champions League chance again with Kanote next to him. I think that scared the living crap out of the Porto strikers. and if Robbo is fit, play Robbo. Midfield is the tricky one. If Milner's fit, you play Milner. And maybe give Ox a bit more minutes, to let him continue playing, because he's done really well the last couple of games, hasn't he? I mean, that's the thing with Ox. I've always liked him, but the injuries has hampered his career. But if he gets game time, he gets his confidence back, and I thought he deserved. Who was your man of the match against Arsenal, by the way?
For me, it was Thiago. For me, a lot of people said
Thiago. Yeah, I mean, but other than that, I mean, Ox was lively, right? So.
Oh, big time. I mean, with Oxlade-Chamberlain, it's a very interesting stat. He's actually been available for every game in 2021, which is a crazy, crazy stat. Apart from his paternity leave, you can't expect him to be available for that. But I mean, he's clearly showing a willingness. And I saw a piece by James Pearce in The Athletic today, which says, how much he is continuing to improve in training and impressing Jurgen Klopp. But you know what? I'm happy for it, and I'm here for it. I mean, he needs regular rhythm, and I think he definitely needs to play on Wednesday. I'd love to see Tyler Morton play. I think he came on and looked very, very tidy on the game against Arsenal. Came a big hug from Jurgen, a big hug from Thiago, and why wouldn't you, as a young player, be absolutely buzzing with that? Two absolute stalwarts of the modern game. But I hope we see Takumi Minamino and Divock Origi. But how likely is that, Dan?
We already know. We already talked about it. It's not as likely. But you know who I want to see? Connor Bradley. I'm dying to see Connor Bradley. Every time he's played this season, whether that's the Carabao Cup, whether was it friendlies as well that he was part of, he's just incredible. I mean, I want to see him badly. Maybe I want to see. It's been a huge topic of discussion moving Neco Williams to the front. Maybe I want to see him as a midfielder or as a forward, as a winger. I just want to see Connor Bradley. He's really grown on me. Every time he steps onto that pitch, he's just doing really good, both offensively and defensively. He seems to me like a better prospect than Neco Williams at right back as Trent's understudy. Tyler Morton as well. I want to see him badly. There could be a huge chance that we see them, but they could be the only young players that we see in that starting 11. So it could be just 3-4 max. That could be it.
I have a feeling about Caoimhin Kelleher, right, Daz? Maybe you'll stick him in.
No, I think 100%. Yeah, give Alisson the day off. Yeah, that's a shoe-in. That's probably the only one that we know Klopp's going to change.
100%. I mean, he has to do it, right? But yeah, I mean, going into Porto, I mean, I had a chat with the Anfield Agenda lads the other day, and a couple of them were like, if we let Porto win, Atletico Madrid might not get through, right? Is that a true debate, Dan, or are we just going to go out and try and win all 6 games?
No, sadly, like we said, with Club, we're going to try to win every single game, regardless of Atletico Madrid's situation. One thing I do want to discuss about is actually Luis Diaz playing for Porto on the next name. Maybe also Fabio. Is it Fabio Concentrao? What's his name? The young midfielder from Porto that has also been linked with Liverpool. Is Fabio Vieira. Vieira. Yeah. The likes of him and I think those are the only 2 players that are linked with Liverpool in a move. I think there's another one, but I mean, this is the time to showcase their players. Porto already knows that we want Luis Diaz. What better opportunity do they have to raise his price tag up than to make him play and have a great performance against Liverpool themselves? We're the club that wants him more than any other club, so I'm gonna keep all eyes on him, and hopefully Fabio Vieira also plays. I've seen a few clips for the under-21s for Portugal. He's incredible, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Liverpool are after a forward in January. Yeah, it surely has to happen. But I mean, Luis Diaz is probably one of the most deluxe options. Sorry, Daz. I mean, how much will you be keeping an eye on him when Porto come to Anfield on Wednesday?
Same. I like him as a player. If the price is right, then I think Liverpool will go in for him. And any opposing player that comes to Anfield, they see the crowd, and I know Porto have been absolutely destroyed by us the last few seasons that we've played them, and I just think any player would want to play for Liverpool at the moment, because
I have a little debate for Daz. If you want to decide which player would you take, Luis Diaz or Rafinha, considering they're probably both going to be at the same price tag?
Rafinha for me.
Rafinha? Daz?
Yeah. Personally.
You put me on the spot.
Let's look at the age per se. Luis Diaz, 24 years old. Rafinha, how old is Rafinha? Let's see. And here it says he's 24 as well.
Rafinha. All I'm saying is I'd rather Jared Bowen than either of them. So that's my boy. That's my boy from my hometown. I can't disrespect my boy Jared.
I mean, or that Daz, or do you want a cheaper option than them two, and then we can probably get another player?
I like Rafinha. I do. There's something about him, Again, he's got Premier experience, and And if Liverpool come knocking for him, we're going to get him. You know, if Klopp wants him, we'll get him. But yeah, either one really. You know, but Rafinha for me. But Bowen, I like Bowen. I do. I'm still mad that we didn't chop him down. One of our players didn't chop him down for that. What was it? The third goal. Still don't understand that.
I don't even want to talk about that West Ham game. It just brings me nightmares again.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end the pod. Very big thanks to Dan and Daz for coming on. Make sure to follow the LFC Transfer Room on Twitter, on YouTube, on everything that we're on about in terms of social media platforms. Anything else to add, Mr. Izquierdo? You good?
Nothing. Just go check. Everybody, go check the YouTube. Well, you're watching. If you're watching you're watching it on YouTube. If you're listening to it, you're listening on the podcast. So then go to YouTube. But huge things are ahead for the YouTube channel. We're gonna start transitioning, making a few changes. Mr. Chris in this screen right here is in charge of all that. He's gonna bring some huge changes, and so just keep an eye on that. That's pretty much it.
Absolutely. And the podcast boys will hopefully be back next week with some more discussion on our 2 wins against Porto and Southampton. But we will see you very, very shortly on the next podcast. We'll see you later. Make sure you follow.